Hey everybody, this is Harshit and welcome back to the podcast. This is your growth marketer at Just Paid, and we're with someone super special. We're actually with Kevin Ramani, and we want to discuss and get some really cool insights about sales, early stage startups, and also mid stage startups, and the entire founder thinking that goes in. Really excited for this entire podcast episode, and I just wanted to start off with a quick background, Kevin. So why don't you just give us, a couple pointers about your background, and let's dig right in.
Hey, Harshit. Nice to be here. Thank you for having me. So my name is Kevin Ramani. I am a sales coach. I started my career in a very non-traditional way. My first job out of school, I worked at NASA. I worked on the Phoenix mission, which landed on Mars and discovered water. Then I worked on the Curiosity rover. You could see a little model of it there. Which is it's not this small. It's actually in reality much bigger. It's a car-sized robot which is a geology lab on wheels. And within that, they drill into the surface of Mars, extract rocks, crush them, and then there's a mass spectrometer that actually tries to understand what kind of minerals and what kind of particles are in there. And that mission actually discovered organic particles. So you got water, you got organic particles, the two things you need for life. And that's how I started my career. And then everything went downhill because I decided to start a startup. My first startup, I went door to door to over 500 businesses trying to sell a technology a little ahead of its time and with very little real sales experience. And I got rejected by all 500 of those businesses. It was brutal. It was really tough. And I learned a lot. I learned especially how to handle rejection, but I also learned how to manage objections and how to build a repeatable process, how to build consistency. There's a tons of lessons that came out of that. Eventually, that business just didn't pan out. When we started, and I started a second company. This time, I had some levels of success. I moved to Silicon Valley, got into an accelerator, raised a little bit of money, got Google, Apple, Oracle as early customers, and actually was able to get those customers off of a cold call. One of the key things is it's not just about being good at sales. You actually have to deliver product market fit. And that business just didn't have product market fit. Our customers were churning. Our users would, have very, very inconsistent usage. There were a lot of downtimes. There were a lot of reasons. And eventually that business died. So learning all the lessons, all the things not to do the hardest possible way by doing them wrong. And then third time around, I joined this founding team for a YC-backed company. And we built a business called Elastic Sales. Now, Elastic Sales was a sales as a service business, almost kind of like AWS. It was like AWS for sales. And you could basically ramp up and have salespeople that go out and sell for you. And that's actually how I met Daniel Kibatinos, the founder of Just Paid. And he, at the time, he was founder of Dr. Chrono, his startup then. And they were it was actually our very first customer at Elastic Sales. So we did sales for Dr. Chrono and literally 200 different startups where we did everything from building their sales playbook, going and doing top of funnel, converting the top of funnel, doing demos, follow-ups, negotiations, closing deals. And they were in all sorts of industries. They were, selling to doctors and lawyers, selling to Fortune 500 companies, mid-market, selling technical products, selling to non-technical buyers, selling all sorts of things. We learned a lot about sales. One of the interesting things I learned then is that there is no such thing as one playbook. There was no one playbook that we could bring to all these companies. Every playbook has to be uniquely constructed, and a playbook are essentially a set of tools that are right for that job. And so, we come in with all the tools and then decide what sorts of tools we could use for this job, and then create a unique combination of those tools and build the playbook around that. And we were very scientific. We built a lot of tests and iterations around the process so that what something worked, we implemented it more and we doubled down. When it didn't work, we took it out. And so putting in right KPIs and metrics around that. And got very good at figuring out what kinds of businesses actually work, what kinds don't work, how does product market fit play a role in the outcomes? And then more importantly, what are the sort of product market signals that are hard for most people to determine, but then you can start to sniff out. And so I got pretty good at figuring that out. And eventually we realized that sales as a service business was a great business, but it's harder to scale, right? Duh, services business hard to scale. But again,
Right.
doing all the stupid things all the wrong way. But we learned a lot. And we took all the learnings and we baked it into a product. And then we decided to launch the product as an independent sales CRM. And that became Close.com,
Close.
Close. And Close just hit the ground running. We finally had product market fit because we were building it for our own sales needs. And because we were selling for so many diverse companies and we had so many salespeople, we got very good at figuring out how to build product that actually makes salespeople more efficient. So we launched Close as a product, and it grew and became the first few years. It was the fastest growing CRM in the market. We were cash flow positive within the first year of launch, and then after that, as they say, the rest was history. So I built all of the sales and customer success at Close to many millions in revenue, and then I finally exited the business, and it was time to take a break. So I decided, all right, what I can do now is to start coaching people and teaching people, because I developed a passion for working with founders to solve the problems that they were facing. And a lot of the challenges that we faced at Elastic Sales, and we can get into some of them if you like, but were to try to figure out to solve the playbook, but also to work with founders to make the right decisions. And then at Close, we were selling a sales CRM. So again, we were helping and advising founders on how to set up their sales process, how to get success, seeing what metrics are successful over time, what aren't, what playbooks work, what don't. And then I took all that knowledge and I just enjoyed teaching. So I became a coach. I started coaching founders. Well, I have to say, 8 years later, I have coached 75 companies, raise hundreds of millions of dollars, add $500 million in annual recurring revenue, and add $5 billion, more than $5 billion in valuation. And I'm really enjoying what I do, and that brought me here.
Got it, got it, Kev. I think that's an amazing journey just to hear that as well, because you definitely mentioned a lot of things here. There's no playbook is something that actually struck to me. So would love to dig deeper into that. But just curious, right? As you mentioned, you're actually in NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory, right? You're actually
Yes,
right. JPL, got it. That was in San Francisco, the JPL
No,
Institute or something.
no, it's down in Pasadena,
Okay.
near LA. Yeah.
Okay, got it. So my question was, how did this happen? I mean, it's a large transition, right? I mean, most people that I've come across is either doctors or engineers, and then they start off a startup. But what you mentioned is it's a little different. I mean, right? You started off the bat after college at NASA, and then completely different. I mean, working on a sales startup, and you also mentioned, so this was a YC Winter 11 startup, right?
Yes, that's right.
Got it. Got it. So I think you might have you might have had other batch members were Michael Ma and Kasser. Okay, got it. Yeah, we actually did a podcast with them too, so it's super cool to hear that. But yeah, just curious, like how did that happen? How did the transition happen?
I'm going to admit some things here that are not that most people wouldn't want to admit very publicly. So first off, I enjoyed engineering a lot. I loved to build things. But building things on your own versus building things in a massive organization like NASA is a whole another thing. And there's a lot of bureaucracy. There's a lot of process, a lot of time wasted just going through things that aren't really meaningfully impactful. You're a small part of a very big machine. So it feels insignificant when you work in an environment like that. And I would just say, I was young, restless. I wanted to make a bigger impact. Maybe if I'd stuck with it, I could have, but maybe I just wasn't patient enough. So different people learn their lessons in different ways. For me, this was one of the problems that I faced. The other thing was I personally felt like I was a good engineer, but not a great engineer. And I didn't want to be doing things that I was not great at, even though I love to do them. So I wanted to do I really wanted to do business. I've always wanted to be in business, be in startups, and so that's what prompted me to leave that type of position and then start a company. Also there's something sexy when you're in your 20s. There's something sexy about being a founder, about starting companies, about we look up at our heroes. I used to look up to. I still do, but looking up to the greats like Richard Branson, Elon Musk, and be like, I want to be like them. I want to be great like that. But the reality is, like, I had to learn all the mistakes by doing all the mistakes, my path, and my path had to be very uniquely me. And I wouldn't have got to this place where I recognize what I love the most. And what I love the most is I like helping people. I really do. I can't help myself, but help people. And I like to help people in the areas where they've come easily to me, that I've built a lot of confidence and capability, which is business, startups, sales, and personal growth. And so this is what I do now, and I wouldn't want to do anything else. And
Got it.
that's the whole story of how we got here. But why leaving NASA was more a lot to do with you're in this bureaucracy, and it's just you don't feel significant.
In sales or in startups, most people say it's about being a small fish in a big pond, right? I mean, a big market share, you just need a small pie out of that. But in bureaucracy, it's basically the opposite, right? You actually want to be different. You don't want to be a small fish in a big pond, where there's bureaucracy, right? So this is kind of contradicting, but also makes a lot of sense. So do you want to shed light upon that? Like, what are your thoughts on this?
This is an interesting thing you've said because I never thought of it that way. I I think the part that's true is bureaucracy. You don't want to be kind of like this insignificant thing because you get used a lot in a bureaucracy because everybody's playing politics. Everybody's protecting what's theirs. You go from an environment like, where people have worked 20, 30, 40 years in a very highly politicized, highly political environment where folks are just protecting, their butts. And you go into a startup where everyone's just honest, direct, transparent, not afraid to be called out. Not all startups are like that, unfortunately, but you get to build your own culture when you start a company. So you get to actually create it the way you like. And there's an environment where you can make a difference. For a 24-year-old, like, I wanted to make a difference. And so that was the reason. I didn't see it as like, big market, take a little share and you're going to be big enough, because I wanted to be big. I wanted to have the biggest share of the biggest market. Why not? Ambition. But I think sometimes ambition can be too far from reality. And what I've learned is, like, all that ambition can drive you to make lots of bad decisions or wrong decisions. So the way I've learned it now is, rather than seeing this as like, this is where I want to go and I got to drive there and I got to overcome every hurdle, bend through everything that I can, that's in my way to get to what I want. I now like to see life as I'm on a I'm on a boat. It's a
Mhm.
sailboat. I kind of want to go that direction, but the wind's kind of going there. So what's my best decision? All right, my angle of attack is going to be this. I'm going to take this tack. I'm going to go here, and then when I get to the next spot where the wind changes, I'll find another way, and I'll find a different path to get to that direction that I want to go. But it may not be a direct path, right? Versus sitting on a motorboat and just going, right? Um, but the experience of sitting on a speedboat and going full speed is like, it's kind of jarring. It's uncomfortable, and you're tired and exhausted. You're spent. You're like, right? You guys have experienced this. But sailing with going with the flow. What is the world telling you? What is the universe telling you? What direction are the winds blowing? I know you want to go there, but the winds are blowing here. Why don't you just go with the flow a little? And then it's a lot calmer, a lot more. It's a lot more present to the world as we are in, and I think that's exciting. And that's kind of my mindset shift. So and that's not the question you asked, but we I said this anyway.
Yeah, I'm just open, just to your conversations, because the way we're actually even conversing has a lot of passion and life force, which I can definitely feel through in the camera itself. And now I'm able to, connect with you in a much deeper level. So 100%. I'm able to connect there. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, definitely, because it's just so exciting to see this entire journey, right? Because and was there anything in your childhood that gave you this rebellious nature? Maybe I would call it, lack of a better word, saying, "Hey, I want to do something. I want." There's also a little bit of delusion. There's a little bit of ambition. All of them together. So, is that just a mindset, or can anybody, or can they just replicate that?
One of the things that we do when we're young and we don't have a lot of agency in our lives. We're getting very psychological and
Hmm.
philosophical here.
Hmm.
I like that. Is that um we always are seeing the what's lacking in ourselves, and then we always compare it to what somebody else has. And so but that's on externally. So we see internally ourselves and we compare what's on our inside with somebody else's outside. And what we want more than anything else is to be like the people that we admire, that we see whose outside is great. We don't know what their inside is, but we always like to compare our inside with somebody else's outside. And I think that's a recipe for unhappiness, by the way. That's an aside, but that's what we do as kids. And we, I found that when I was a child, I was not happy with who I was, that I wanted to be like someone else. And over my course of my life, I found all these mentors or people to look up to, who I would just see that they were successful outwardly, and then I'm like, I want to be like that guy. And so and I would look at myself in the mirror and go, here are all the things that are wrong with me. Like, this is what's wrong with me. This is what's wrong. This is what's wrong. And if I want to become this other person, here's the map. Here's how I'm going to get there. And then I would put in an enormous amount of effort. And every time I'd fail at something, I go, you know why you fail? Because you're shit. You're all these things, all these horrible things. So my relationship with myself was of constant self-criticism, where I would just criticize myself for all the things that I was, that were bad, quote unquote, bad in me, and how they were different from what I wanted to be, which was somebody else, which is the external map. I think it was 2019 where that changed.
Okay.
And I was asking, one day I had a bunch of stuff that I thought I needed to do.
Hmm.
And I asked myself, and I wasn't doing them, I was procrastinating. And I go, what's wrong with me? What is wrong with me? Why did I do this? And I had this habit of self-abuse and, you know, really criticizing myself and just really going to town, being very, very harsh with myself. And somebody told me something, the most profound thing that changed my life. And they said, there is nothing wrong with you. I like my brain comped off like that. That couldn't compute this concept. Like, that there's nothing wrong with me. Like, how can there be nothing wrong with me? Like, obviously, I don't have any outcomes that I want out of my life, and I'm not doing all the things that I need to be doing to become this person that's a map of somebody else, somebody that I wanted to become like, and I wanted to be just as successful and just as capable. But he simply said to me, "There's nothing wrong with you." I thought about that, and I thought about that, and where I got to that changed my life was realizing that everything that I want is what somebody else has. And everything I want to be is that somebody else. And it's nothing like who I already am. In fact, I am not taking stock of who I am and what is actually great and good about me. And so it's like the wind is blowing here, my life is taking me here, but I want to go there so badly that I'm not realizing what the destination looks like if I'm actually leaning to where I need to go, where naturally my own subconscious is taking me. And then I went on a journey of stopping doubting myself and stop criticizing myself and start to just observe what's actually good about me. What makes me uniquely good? And when I figured that out, when I started to see, wait, this is uniquely good about me. Wow, I'm actually pretty good at this. I started to create a mental map of who I actually was and what a future looks like where that
Hmm.
is allowed to blossom. That person who I actually am becomes more of me rather than
Right.
more of somebody else. I started to want to be more like me. And that changed all my goals in life. I stopped wanting to become, um, this big entrepreneur CEO in front of the room with everybody. And I just started, and that's not to say that that couldn't be an outcome, but I started to see like what are great things about me that I want to do. Just do more. Forget having goals or outcomes tied to. Just be more you. And when I'm more me, what happens? Well, I tell you that magic happens. Magic happens because when you're more you, it's wonderful. You are much happier. You're a lot more productive, believe it or not. One of the fears that I had of not letting me be me was that if I stop criticizing myself, I'll become complacent and I'll stop
Okay.
doing all the things I need to do.
Got it.
So we kind of went down a rabbit hole here of a whole thing, but uh, of a personal journey. But for me, the personal journey was recognition that um, I'm I'm somebody different, learning to discover myself and becoming more like myself. And then that changed my outcomes, my goals, and my motivations. And has made life better, actually, more productive, more capable, better output that's more valuable to the world. But it's just not what I originally wanted to do.
I think we actually discussed a lot of things here, and would love to connect them as we proceed with our conversation with a founder's mindset. The mental battles that all the founders face, and I think there was something very profound that you mentioned. Right? It was um, mentally you think, hey, if I'm not doing this and I'm procrastinating, that means I'm not good enough. I'm not doing it well. So it's this constant mental battle that's happening inside your head. And what you just mentioned about, of course, there's nothing wrong with you. I think that's a very I don't know, I don't even know how to say it. That just carries a lot of weight because um, it's all manufactured problems, right? Everything that we have right now, it's mostly manufactured problems. In the end, it's just that we are just Homo sapiens. We've been put on the earth, right? And we're just figuring out ways, right? I mean, yeah, some people want to go to Mars. Some people, want to do different cool stuff, and that's how it is. And I think in the end, it's just curiosity and human behavior and all those human instincts that play a role. And most people do live in manufactured problems, and even I did for some extent, right? I mean, my college days, all of those, it's definitely manufactured problems. So that shift of mindset, I think it's super, super important, what you just mentioned. And now, if I, try to connect it with a mindset of a founder, right? Because everything that you just said, just throwing out an example here, right? Because Nvidia, right? Nvidia's example. So what I read was an average Nvidia employee with their stock options is worth around $2 million on an average, right? But they still feel they're not doing good enough because they're in that place, right? They're in the hot spot of, in Silicon Valley. And in Silicon Valley, in SF, there's always someone doing something more cooler than you, someone who's raised more money than you. Exactly, exactly. Your competitors, raising more money than you, spending more marketing budget than you. So all of this is happening. So an early stage founder, what happens in their head, and how do they even try to overcome it? Because some people, they just started being first time founders, right? So how could this play a role?
There is let's tie all of this back to founders because
Mm-hmm.
it could seem like what I'm saying is that the founders should stop dreaming and stop having the ambition that they have. And that's just not what I'm saying. The ambition that's solely like building everything for the sake of the ambition and where they want it to be is a function of a made up persona that they want to be. A lot of this is about the persona that a founder wants to be. So like they want to become somebody, right? And then the ambition is a way to tie it to that.
Got it.
I love the idea instead of discovering who you really are and being more true to yourself as a founder. There's a founder that I work with, who I'm not without naming any names.
Yeah.
Um, sh- she, um, she had this big meeting coming up, this big company wide. She's the founder, she's CEO. They're doing really well. They're growing. She doesn't think so. She didn't think at the time that they're doing as well because she was comparing to all the other companies that were growing faster, raising more money, big tier VCs. She felt like they're not at that level, but they were growing really well. They were, in the tens of millions of dollars in revenue. But she had this big company wide meeting coming up, and she wanted to plan this big, all hands talk where she talks to the whole company.
Mhm.
And as she was trying to come up with what to write, she kept thinking like, this is not good enough. Like, some, I, it won't be as good as some white CEO, like white male CEO of
Correct.
a high profile company, how they would do it. And she kept trying to make her presentation how it would sound if it was a white male CEO,
Okay. Okay.
like a more successful like version of a
Correct.
founder
Correct.
that she didn't see
Correct.
herself being connecting with. And we realized that was poisoning. Like, what
Ye-
is actually great about her that she didn't appreciate? She underappreciated it. And so we worked on it together was to learn to figure out what are her strengths and how can we build this company in an image of her strengths that then she can lean into, that she's more happy being and more comfortable being, and she has more clarity because it's more her. And when we made that shift, she knew exactly what to write, what to say in that presentation. She didn't have to think. It was natural. She's like, instead of trying to be somebody else, I want to be more me. And when she was being more me, she knew exactly what to say to the people. And then the feedback for the company was exceptional. Everybody came back from that offsite fully charged up with direction, with context, and everybody was talking about how great of a leader she is. And she wasn't trying. That's the point. So for founders, I think instead of copying somebody else's journey, because we as humans, we want to constantly compare ourselves to others and like they're this much by this age or this much by this series round and this much valuation and this much run rate and ARR growth rate. I'm going to say a bad word, but fuck all that. Find your journey, play the long game, but do it that's true to you. Be more honest of who you are. You are not the person you admire. You are you. And there's a lot to admire about you. Let's go on a discovery journey to figure out what that is. And then let's build a company that's in your image, that's true to you. And what'll happen is when you're true to yourself, a lot of decision-making conflicts will go away because it'll just be the easy reference point is self. It's much harder when you're making a decision where the reference point is some other person and you have no idea what that person's like, but you kind of want to imitate them. Don't do that. Be you. And that's not an easy thing. I'm saying, right? That's like what this friend of mine told me, which is there's nothing wrong with you, right? There's nothing wrong with you. Be more you. And your style, your unique way, with its pluses and minuses, what we're going to do is we're going to work on the pluses. We're going to let those blossom because you can win from your strengths. And if you want to go back and look at all the most successful entrepreneurs, the ones that have hit the highest tier of success, they all had different qualities about them that they just lean into that. So just you have to lean into yours. You can't be them. Can't be the next Steve Jobs. You can't be the next Elon Musk. You be the next you. And we don't know if you'll hit that level of success. It could even exceed them. It could eclipse them. Or it could be lower than that. But doesn't matter. You'll be happier and you'll be more productive. You'll move faster when you're you. And that's my advice for founders is like, let's discover who you are and build the vision of your company around that.
There was one book that I just read. I think that was sometime in 2021. It was "Awaken the Giant Within" by Tony Robbins. I also see you have a book behind, Tony Robbins. So I definitely love that book. Right, a lot of change in mindset and taking action, and this whole thing about NLP, programming your whole mindset for success, and just trying to connect the dots and just trying to add another pointer on what you just said. When I was in Dubai for like a vacation, and then I was just looking at these amazing cars, right? Dubai supercars. And there was like one supercar, and I just went into the showroom, and these guys, the salesmen, all suited up, they're just trying to sell the car. And I just asked them, like, okay, so what is the best advice that you can give them? So when you're like trying to sell properties, or trying to sell things, aren't you like forcing people, hey, just buy this property in MR, in Soba, or just buy this Ferrari? Aren't you trying to extract money out of their pocket and just give them a product? And then he said, no, that's actually a very wrong way to look at it. Sales is where you're actually giving what they need, and you're adding value to them. And I love this product, and I'm passionate about this product, and helping them with this product is adds value to both of us. So I think that entire mindset shift changed a lot of things as well, and it kind of felt like that person was just embracing himself, right? Again, he's not the typical 6'1", well suited up, Harvey Specter looking salesman. He was a chill dude, and people were able to relate with him, and he was the one who was doing most of the sales. And maybe he wasn't properly aware of all of these things, but he was just enjoying himself. Do you think more founders, even in SaaS, should actually try to embody this and just become more of themselves? And if so, is there a pathway to it? How does it happen? Is there like an awakening moment, or how does it work?
Well, there's several things you said that are interesting. So on the sales front, I love the mindset of, we're not selling this to extract money from people. You are extracting money from people, but it's not an extraction, it's a trade. But but people can just go to the shelf and buy whatever they want. People go to the showroom and buy a Ferrari. Why do they need a salesperson? I think, in my view, a salesperson's core job, and whether you're a founder selling or you're an individual salesperson, your your job is to help bridge the gap between the product and the passion. And you have to be an advisor to the person. If I go and I'm just selling a Ferrari, and I'm like trying to just be like, don't you want a Ferrari? It's a Ferrari. It's a Ferrari. That it'll make you look good. It'll make you look this. I'm a shitty salesperson. But if I'm the salesperson who you come in and you go, I want to look at a Ferrari, you go, cool. Well, what do why? Why do you want a Ferrari? What do you imagine yourself doing? What is your desire? What need are you trying to meet? And I might go, honestly, like, based on what I think you're doing, you'll buy a Ferrari, but tomorrow, like a month from now, 2 months from now, 6 months from now, you'll be like, I barely drive it because I'm the type of person who just keeps the car inside. I don't go out with it because I'm worried about it gets scratched. And, based on all of those things I've learned about you, I don't think you should buy. As an advisor, I can tell them that. I think what you really need, I think you need a Mercedes. I think you should get this Mercedes. It's going to give you all the power you want. You clearly don't care so much about how people think about you. You care more about, rugged reliability, and this Mercedes is going to give you kind of that good balance. So I might sell that. And that might not be a smaller commission check for me, but it's a more integrity move. So I see almost salespeople like doctors. We need to diagnose what's happening with the other person. You cannot diagnose somebody without doing really deep discovery and understanding.
Mhm.
And if all the doctor wanted to do was push pills and collect their check, then that's not a very good doctor, right? We don't want to go to that doctor. We want to go to the doctor who understands us, who gives us the right guidance, who we can trust. And we can't trust all doctors. We have to trust the doctors who do the due diligence with us, right? So you want to, in the sales, you want to be that. You want to be that doctor. That's why it's so important. And that's why I think it's a great integrity uh, career where you could build integrity with people. You can get good at understanding their needs and connecting people with their desires, helping them be happy in the long run. And by doing that, you're actually doing some good in the world, right? And you're collecting a paycheck if you're really good at it, which is the best thing we could do. So that's my point of view on that. But what was the other question you were asking about founders?
Yeah. So how can how can they translate this mindset with their SaaS companies?
So look, the sales mindset is, I think, I think easily translatable with what we just said. I think
Hmm.
our job as founders when we're getting early customers is to not
Yeah.
go out there and try to sell anything to everybody.
Okay.
Sell something where if you were them, you would buy.
Okay.
Learn to understand their customers' real needs and
Hmm.
have integrity to tell people, like, honestly, I don't think you should buy this. I think you should buy that because what you really need is what that product does, even if it's a competitor of mine. And that's okay. That's okay. But in terms of the sort of the mindset shift and awakening, the overall mindset we've been talking about, besides the sales one, is we've been talking about the mindset of you know, leaning into your own strengths and becoming more like yourself. So the question is, yeah, I think one question you asked was, is this one moment in time this happening, this
Correct.
awakening happens, or
Yeah.
I would, for everybody it's different,
Hmm.
and different people have different tolerance
Hmm.
for self-abuse.
Okay.
I think one of the key components of when you are trying to basically not be you, be somebody else, and there's this gap, is how much self-abuse you use to push yourself to get there,
Hmm.
and how much tolerance you have for that self-abuse.
Okay.
And that self-abuse is driven by fear, because there's a fear of insignificance. There's a fear of not being great, not being recognized, not being loved, not being accepted. There's just some childhood-based fear that's kind of driving
Yeah.
you,
Yeah.
where you're driving towards somebody else's identity, not your own. That's what
Yeah.
it's about. Not everybody has that problem. Some people are aligned with their identity. But if you're not, you're pushing. Different people have different capacity to feel fear and be driven by it. Some people get paralyzed at some point and then just can't operate anymore. So if you're at a place in life where you're burning out, you're pushing so hard, you're burning out, you're tired, you're exhausted, you just don't even know how you could do it anymore. It's like pushing a boulder uphill. And while you're pushing it, you see that the slope ahead is getting even steeper, and you're like, I'm already spent. I don't know how it's going to be, but I'm stuck. That is a moment to ask yourself, like, is this worth it? Do I really want that? And why do I really want that? Let's inspect that. Why do you want that outcome in that way? What if there is an outcome where it's like rolling like the ball downhill and it speeds up as it goes rather than pushing it uphill? Who said that that's the right way to do things? That you have to, the only way to have success in life is to push uphill. It's not necessarily true. Aren't there people out there where success comes easily because it just flows from them, because they're aligned with who they are and they just go out there and do it? So if you're in that place where you feel burning out and stuck, and you don't know how you have the energy, and you're tired and exhausted, that's a good time to inspect this. For people, I think there is a moment where it snaps and it changes. And for different people, it just depends on your capacity, because some people have such great capacity to feel fear and to abuse and to push, that they will
Mhm.
just do it. They'll just keep going and they'll get there. And guess what will happen? They'll get to the top
Okay.
and they'll not be happy. They'll have a great outcome. They'll sell the company and they won't know what to do with themselves. So what they will do instead is they go back to the struggle. They'll create an opportunity for themselves to take all what they earn, risk it all in something, lose all of it, and be back to the drawing board of grinding,
Mm.
because the destination wasn't the answer all along.
Correct.
We know that.
Correct.
It's kind of
Correct.
a
Correct.
well-known
Correct.
concept.
Just one thing, right? It's about just wondering. Sometimes, when I'm trying to wipe code a SaaS product, or just build this whole marketing funnel, or this LinkedIn scraper, I run into issues, right? Even just working at Just Paid, and then sometimes when I'm just sticking at it, just trying to keep prompting it, just trying to get the exact version of what I need. Sometimes it doesn't work, but then sometimes, I just go, just chill. I just, lay on my couch and then just wonder. Okay, so what am I having for dinner? Okay, this chicken sandwich was good. Just wondering random stuff and thinking about memes. And when I come back, I think it's a whole different result. I don't know what happens. I honestly don't know what happens. Is it just, am I in a calmer pace, or it just works out sometimes? Yeah.
What you're eliminating is pressure. Pressure up to a certain point can be good, but beyond a certain point is bad. And again, people have different capacity to manage pressure. Everybody has a breaking point in pressure. Everybody has a breaking point, but it's just different for different people. So when you take pressure off, or more importantly, self-judgment, judging yourself, which is what we do a lot. We love doing that. We
Correct.
judge ourselves more than we judge other people. Everybody's like worried about being judged, but they're really doing is they're judging themselves. Isn't that funny? Like
Yeah.
people don't want to be judged by others, but they're happily judging themselves all day long.
Yeah.
So when you take judgment off the plate
Mhm.
and just let yourself be, judgment is like a big boulder you carry on your shoulders. And you almost like push carrying this burden, and I'm like, why aren't you performing? Why aren't you performing? And it's like more and more and more pressure. And like if you just take that off, you get lift because you're not carrying the burden anymore. And suddenly you're performing. When you take the pressure off, when you take the judgment out, that's what it does. It's so easy, it's so obvious, but it's so hard to do. So that's why I think why, when you're like, I'm just gonna go eat, I'm gonna watch some memes, just take the pressure off. And suddenly you have the clarity because you're not also judging yourself. Your mental cycles are freed up. A part of me for me, it was like I needed to do these things in order to prove that I'm good enough. But then at some point, just went, I don't need to do anything I don't feel like doing. If I'm avoiding it, if I'm procrastinating, it just means I don't want to do it. Okay, let's not. You don't feel like working today? Don't. People go, are you kidding me? You would say that to yourself? Yeah, sometimes I do. Sometimes I go, I don't feel like working today. Okay, I don't. I go, all right, what do you want to do? I'll ask myself, cool, what do you want to do? I want to do this and this and this. I go, all right, let's do it. I take the pressure off. But then here's what something else that interesting that happens. Used to be that I used to procrastinate for things because I would put so much pressure and then I would procrastinate. And then the end of the day, it was too late to do those things. And I'm like, see, motherfucker, you didn't do it. See, you suck. You're inconsistent. You're lazy. You're all these things. There's a lot of judgment. The next day, I'm like, I have all these things I got to do. YouTube, Instagram, scrolling,
Mhm.
doom
Mhm.
scrolling. And then hours have gone by like, fuck. Right. And I just didn't do it. This is what was my pattern. Then my friend said, there's nothing wrong with me. And I'll be like, what is wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with me. So I said, okay, you don't want to work? Oh, you want to scroll YouTube? Let's scroll YouTube. Fine. Let's lean into it. What happened? All right, for an hour, I scrolled YouTube. But then I'm like, this is not really fun. It's only fun
Correct.
when I was procrastinating, but it is not
Correct.
fun
Correct. Correct. Yeah.
when I'm actually
Exactly.
doing it intentionally. So
Yeah.
like, all right, maybe I should find something else fun to do. And then I think about the fun things to do. And then for a week, I did this. But then after a week, I would go, you know what? I can't really enjoy this till I just take care of these things. Why don't I just go take care of this work? And then I could actually enjoy this. So I would just go do the work instead. And then I would do the thing. And that whole thing shifted where I went from procrastinating the thing I needed to do to just doing it and without pressure. By allowing myself that space. And yes, it cost me a week of an unproductivity, but then after that, life's been very different.
And I think some of these cognitive biases that we were discussing, there were actually a couple of them, right? One I'd say is actually spotlight effect, when you're just thinking, hey, I have the spotlight effect, like the world is watching me, my friends are watching me, right? I mean, teenager, I just faced it, when I had like an acne on my face, and say, hey, all my friends are gonna watch me, this time, and I think that's definitely their spotlight effect, but we just overestimate how much people are noticing us, but honestly, they're just judging themselves.
Super egotistical. Like, how
Exactly.
egotistical are we that all we think all the time is like how people are looking at us and thinking about us? Do you think about other people all the time? No. You're just thinking about you. Everybody's just thinking about themselves. How
Exactly.
egotistical do we have to be to think that the whole world is revolving around us? Because they're judging us, they're watching what we do. Even if
Exactly.
some people go like, that's funny, or you did something embarrassing. They moved on. They went and did something else. Yeah, maybe in high school that was a little different, right? But as they're older, people move on and do other problems, and they're worried about how they look.
Correct.
Just don't worry about that. Just worry about you.
Absolutely, Kevin, because all these actually principles that we are discussing are super important for founders, right? Or even people just working. There's a lot of pressure people get from their managers as well. So I think incorporating some of these principles that you mentioned are really helpful. And I mean, just discussing about the spotlight effect again, one company that was able to make billions of dollars out of this, cognitive bias was, I mean, Instagram. It knows, the kind of dopamine that we get when people like our stuff, when it's just a simple heart icon. That's it. It's a digital thing that no one cares about, but it's just taken over the world. And I'd say that just happened, right? That's something that marked it really well. But uh, after that, I just wanted to discuss diving deeper into YC's principle, right? YC has one thing which says do things that don't scale. When but there's also another side to it. When you're constantly doing things that don't scale, um, I think I've just been reading about your, the work that you've done, and somewhere it said you did over 20,000 cold calls. Was that something that happened? And if so, were you ever burnt out? Or how was the responses? Because we had a sales team, right? We also have a sales team, and then uh it's a very sales is a very tough job. You constantly have to be there, uh, talk to people. Most people don't give a shit. They don't want to talk to you. They're doing something else. Again, they're again busy with their lives. You're interrupting their day, and maybe you have something really good to offer to them, but you have to convey that. And how did that happen? I mean, 20,000 I mean, sales calls, that's crazy. How did that happen, Kevin?
When we were building Elastic Sales, we were doing sales as a service. And in order to, at first, go get our early clients, we were doing tons and tons of cold calls, emails, you name it. This is back in 2011. And then later on, we also built the whole process around emails and other, and then when we got other clients, we actually built cold calling campaigns for them. So we were either selling our product or selling for our clients. So we were doing tons and tons of calls. So um, you know, when you do 200 dials a day, which like I did for many, many, many months or couple of years, you get to 20,000 pretty fast. I probably have done much more than that, probably like 30, 40,000. But that's, what does it matter at that point when you're doing that many dials a day? But there's
Yeah.
an interesting lesson in sales. Like if you really care about sales,
Hmm.
um, there are some things that are really good skills to have in sales. One of them is consistency. And here's how one of the things about sales that actually works is that sales is very lumpy. So some days you have really good days where, four of your emails, 4 out of 10 emails get a response. You know, uh, you're spending most of the day talking to people on a cold call that are actually engaging with you. You're getting all this pipeline, deals are moving forward. Some days are really, really good. And then some days are really, really bad. And sometimes, and usually the bad streaks last longer than the good streaks. So what has been best practice that has been established is that what you do is if you're consistent in your
Hmm.
output or rather not output, but in your the input like in the machine, then over time you have a consistent output, which is the results. So if I'm having a really good day and I did 5 calls and I got all 5 connected and I had this excellent, like I have all this pipeline that was created, and I might sit back and go like, you know what, I achieved my goal for the week.
Hmm.
I don't need to sit and do more because I got all this and I can sit back. But next 4 weeks are going to be shit because it just is inconsistent like that. It just kind of, it's like you're playing craps you're gambling, you're playing craps. Sometimes the table is hot for a while and then sometimes it's cold for a really long time. It's like
Yeah.
that. Sales is like that. So what's better to do is on the days that are having a good day, if you're going to do 100 dials, you do 100 dials. And on the days where it's shit, you do 100 dials. Because you maximize the time when when the sun is shining, you make as much hay as possible. So consistency is really important. And if you do it consistently, you get much, much better because what happens is you have more interactions with people even the negative interactions, you get better at dealing with it. And one of the key about cold calling is self-regulation. It's emotional regulation for the self. That's the key for cold calling. Because you might make a dial and for 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, like you're getting machines answering phones or whatever, or secretaries hanging up on you. And you're just getting bored. And then suddenly somebody picks up and they're the right person. But you've been in this like slump, low energy, shitty mindset. And you have a person at the other end that's your chance. Well, if you're not well regulated, you are not going to hit that chance because imagine getting a cold call from somebody who sounds bored
Mm-hmm.
and with low
Yep.
energy. Do you really want to like, no, not
Right.
interested. Hang
Yeah.
up. You're going to hang up on them. So as a salesperson, you want to bring the maximum intensity and enthusiasm on every conversation you're going to have. And so that means you get better at self-regulation through all the slumps when you're not getting a response. You stay positive, stay engaged. And by doing that, you're actually going to influence the other person because when the right chance comes, you're going to maximize the opportunity. You're going to have a higher chance of converting. And so consistency helps with that because after a while, you get numb to the negative thing. You make a game out of it. My first mentor who's taught me my cold calling gave me this really great methodology to deal with
Okay.
rejections. And what he said was, you have to make 100 dials today. That was at first I was doing 100 and then I built up to like 250 dials a day. But like you have to do 100 dials, okay? So to do 100 dials, w- he said make 100 little check boxes. And I go, why? I'm just gonna count it somewhere else. Why do I need to? My software will count it. Doesn't matter. Do 100 check boxes. I'm like, okay, fine. And then he said, every time you make a call, you hang up, you check a box. Your
Okay.
goal today is just do 100 check boxes. That's it. To check every box. That's your goal. Your goal isn't get these many deals or these many calls and these many conversations. Just or get calls to convert. It's to do these 100 dials and check these boxes. You know what's surprising about that is that when I was doing those calls, even when I got a rejection, at when I hung up, I was not feeling great. Hey, I got to check a box. It's one step closer to my goal. And so it reframes the constant rejection that you get with where it's putting a negative emotional pressure on you to a positive thing at like one step closer, one more thing checked off. And that feels nice. It gives a little dopamine hit and it counters the negative energy. And you do this enough, you get really good at being like not being bothered and you don't need to make 100 check boxes. So you're like, I don't care, whatever. Oh, hey, sorry, I'm not interested. No, thanks. I'm going to hang up on you. You go, yeah, listen, no problem. I make a joke. I'll play a game. I might say like, you know what? If I were you, I'd hang up on myself too. And they might laugh. Wait, what? Yeah. Like, yeah, this is a shitty pitch. I made a horrible attempt at you. May I try again? And then, it might turn into something fun. You can really turn conversations into entertainment once you do self mastery. So, and that's most critical in cold calling and sales.
And yeah, I think the 100 check boxes definitely is a great approach. And now I think if you're on your Mac, connecting Notion with an MCP server, if you're using all these AI tools, Claude MCP and Notion MCP, it's much more easier to do. You just have to just prompt Claude, "Hey Claude, I'm done with this call. Check it off. Done, done." I think you're also just building a nice chat conversation as well. And it's just my AI brain running, right? I'm just trying to connect your dots, and what can I do? What can I do? In the same way with sales, and try to do this on my Mac. I think that's great. I mean, yeah, if you just see all those green emojis on your Notion, you're more confident about everything. And yeah, you could just say AI, hey, this is everything that I've learned from Kevin's podcast. Why don't you be my AI Kevin and try to motivate me and help me out with each of my outreach? That's something that I could try out. So yeah, I think these are a lot of good strategies that you actually mentioned. Um, but I want to talk about fuck ups, right? So what are there any fuck ups that founders do mid stage? Maybe with VCs, customers, PMF. How do they deal with that? What are some that you have seen?
One of the biggest fuck ups that I see founders do in the very early stage and I'm surprised how many people actually still do this, is that they avoid, um, so it's kind of a combination of things. So they avoid doing the most necessary thing and try to do things that would eventually become necessary but are not necessary today as a way of fooling themselves into progress. So, for instance, a founder has no customers, right? No customers, and the product is in beta, it's not even ready. And they decide we're going to do this big marketing push and do this funding announcement and launch. We just raised money, so we're going to announce the funding. Well, you don't have any customers. You don't have any proof that this works. You're going to announce the funding. It just makes you feel good because there's another box to check. This is like now countering the argument of the box checking. In sales, it's different. There's a good reason to like just check the boxes. But in founder mode, it's not. It's in this scenario, it's not. Because yes, at some point you should announce your funding and do a big PR launch. But shouldn't that come after the product's ready? Shouldn't that come after you have a handful of customers that have actually proven and successful and going well, so that you have some case study to go with it, so that the leads that come in from that actually result in something? So I had a startup that you know was like, no, 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 we're going to do the announcement because that's what people do, and they were trying to just follow that trend, but doing it in the wrong order. I find that founders generally have the right instincts of the things that should be done, but they have usually the order of it wrong. And usually it's because they're trying to avoid something. So I this same startup I was giving example of, part of the reason they were thinking like this is because they were worried that the product didn't have product market fit subconsciously. So they were avoiding directly engaging with customers. So I made a big push to them and said, listen, you've got to go out there and go talk to customers. And they're like, I think we're going to hire another marketing person. And I think we're going to do this big, like, we're going to do like a PLG motion. We're going to announce this. We're going to create a self-serve product to drive business. I go, just fucking call customers and get in front of them and show them the product and get 5 customers using it before you do that. No, didn't do it. Wouldn't put in the effort. Just avoided, put in effort on 100 other things, but on that one core thing, what happened? A year later, they spent most of their capital raised and they realized this isn't really working. We avoided doing this kind of probably because we were afraid that it wouldn't work. But you know what the reality is? If you're truly afraid that it doesn't work, you have time to change it. So just go out there to know for certain. Go get in front of customers, get people to validate by buying. And if they're not buying, don't do more marketing. Just get it in front of customers, get them to buy or change. Until you don't do that, don't hire more people. I had another company that I was working with. Well, I actually wasn't working with them, but we were exploring working together.
Mhm.
Where this is another mistake, similar in a similar vein. They had as I was getting to know them, they told me that they had about 11 months of runway left. I go,
Okay.
oh,
Okay.
11 months of runway. Okay, that's not a lot. Product is just launched. We have 1 customer. I go, okay, all right, that's fine, but we haven't really proven product market fit with 1 customer. It's kind of early.
Yeah. Yeah.
And they're already they raised some money. They had some money in the back, 11 months runway left. When I looked at their team, I go, what
Mhm.
is your burn? They said the burn was like almost 140K a month. Go, how
Okay.
are you burning 140K a month? It might have even been higher than that. When I look at it, they had 7 engineers. Go, why do you have 7 engineers? Go, well, we're really good at hiring and we've got a great reputation for hiring the best engineers. So we built an amazing team. So when we need it, we can do it. And I said, you might not last. You're going to run out of money in 11 months and you have no customers. And by the way, you're going to fundraise your next round of funding. For that, you need like 3 to 4 months, which means 11 minus 4, right? So that's 7. So you really have 7 months to get, if you raise an A, you probably have to get at least $1 million in ARR.
Correct.
Why not What product are you going to build with 7 engineers that helps you get to $1 million in ARR? Not much, right? Or you're going to over-engineer things. What if you reduce your staff and give yourself another 8, 9 months? And what that would do is it would give you a higher chance of success, higher shots of goal. Because if you fail the launch and if you fail getting to product market fit, you're sure to die. But which is a higher likelihood. But if you simply give yourself more time, be more scrappy, just your two of your founders are already engineers, 2 founders, maybe 1 extra engineer, and then you guys build this out, then it'll be better. Didn't want to do it because if they let people go, it would be a reputational damage among other startups. Well, you're going to die and it's going to be a worse reputational damage, but that's not important. It's more important how you're perceived than to give yourself the highest chance of succeeding.
Okay.
So that was actually a potential client where we were going to engage. And as we started to engage, I was like, this is not going to work. And and we were not agreeing on this and give them their money back because they just wouldn't understand this concept. And it's been about 10 months that company's dead.
And it's funny how now we're closer to the podcast, end of the podcast, and then it's a full circle where we went back to the first topic that we discussed, which is external validation. Just looking at other startups and trying to check all these boxes that other startups have, other founders have, but just not looking at the balance sheet, product, customers, right? I think it's fun how we went back to the same pointers. And there was also another thing that you mentioned was what if the founder kind of knows, okay, if try to just try to sell it to the customers, I might get a lot of rejections. So that's my fear, and I'm just I'm just procrastinating. I'm just trying
Rather than
to
have your head in the
create
sand.
exactly like an ostrich. Yeah, rather have a head in your sand, exactly, and just not look at the real fear and try to deal with it.
If you consider rejection as a judgment
Mm-hmm.
on your work output,
Mm-hmm.
then and it actually ties well with low self-esteem. So if your self-esteem is low and you do some work, it's very important to you that that work have some level of praise and acceptance. And so especially if
Okay.
you're doing work and giving it to customers, then it's really important if you have low self-esteem that that work needs to be accepted. And if you're afraid it won't be accepted, that's a ding to your self-esteem. So you kind of avoid doing it. So the longer you avoid it, the longer you don't have to feel that pain of rejection of your self-esteem. But in reality, if you disconnect your sense of identity from your work output
Mm-hmm.
and instead connect the sense of identity to your process, and your process
Okay.
is, I'm going to create some work output. I'm going to go out there because I'm humble. I don't know if it's going to be good. I'm going to put it in front of people, let people work on it, use it, and tell me what's broken about it. And I trust in my process to take that feedback and iterate and get it better. And that's how I get my self-esteem. I get my self-esteem in my belief in myself that I'm going to figure it out. I'm just going to keep iterating. I'm going to use the customer to help me do that rather than being just judged by them.
Got it.
You're judging my work product, but not me as a human. And that's okay. And so I'll just keep iterating on it until it's good. And then when it's good, how will I know it's good? Not because I say so. It's because customers like it and go, all right, my self-esteem comes from my process. It comes from who I am as a person, not my work output.
So with this, yeah, 100%, I totally agree with you because in this section, I think there are 3 pointers that we just covered. And I'm just throwing in my perspective as well. So 3 things would be ego, right? Ego again in both ways. One way is what, I end of the day I'm gonna win no matter what, so might as well launch the product, take feedback, do it. So that's good ego. And then being humble, humble in the sense, hey, very short runway, just a couple months left. I have to, get to the ground and just get working. And the other one I was thinking was shame. Shame again, um, in a kind of a good way, just being shameless in the sense, you know what? I go to a customer, they don't like my product. Who the fuck cares? Okay, you know what? Give me feedback. Sir, give me feedback. What can I improve? And I got my team. I'll improve it. Let's just do this. I think that's again, playing with, kind of tweaking shamelessness a little bit because short term shamelessness is much better than, just thinking, okay, I don't want to, fail this entire startup. That's also involved, right? I mean, it's just so true what you just mentioned. So I don't know if I'm right. I'm just giving my perspective, like my life experiences or something. So
I think you're hitting the right points. So i- the shame that we feel, that we're afraid we might feel, I think a lot of it we carry from our childhood, right? Could be that the teacher put you on the spot and showed everybody how terrible your homework was, or how terrible your test result was, and you were publicly humiliated. Or you saw somebody else being publicly humiliated and you were deathly afraid of it, or some version of that. Or your parents did it to you over and over again against your siblings. Who knows? Who knows how it happened? We all have complicated childhoods. The point is that that shame that drives us to like protect, ourselves from others, um, also then prevents ourselves from making the right moves if your objective is to become an entrepreneur. Because entrepreneurship, being a founder, starting a company is inherently a very risky proposition with a high chance of failure, high chance of public failure. So you have to let go of that shame if you want that world, or you know, be okay, or don't associate with it. Instead, you put your work out. If you get bad feedback, you go, cool, bad feedback. That means it's an opportunity to improve. It's not nothing else. And I just trust myself to figure it out. And even if I don't figure it out, it's okay. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with you.
there was, the way I overcame shame and, just being happy with who I am and, properly knowing that nothing's wrong with me was, again, in school, the exact same example you said. My homework was shit. My teacher in fifth grade, put me on the spot. And in India, teachers, they get a little physical, she kind of, pitched my ear. I was crying and everything. But eventually, when I learned about stuff, I just felt okay when I entered the real life. I understood that not knowing the geographical map or political map doesn't make sense for me because for me, my checkbox, I do not give a shit about politics. I do not give a shit about geography. And even if I do, I might as well just travel to the place instead of even, knowing where the map is, or, that's my internal self. That's what I figured out, saying, okay, none of these matter. And honestly, what is it that I want to do? I want to have a nice startup in the future, maybe something like you. Like, I think you have Ramani Ventures, something like that, like Harshit Ventures, and then build couple of companies. Is my teacher doing that? No. So why do I have to fear about them, right? I think that really helped a lot. Again, that came with a lot of wondering.
Young, our world is very small. And when shame is used to, and fear is used to teach you, and that if you don't learn something or you don't know something the right way, which is determined by them what is the right way, then that is something that we can carry, that fear we can carry with us for the rest of our lives. And part of growing up, well, you know what? It's not even growing up, because most people grow up and they still carry some of those fears because they were very
Good.
harshly implemented in many cases. Um, we learn a lot of lessons as a child, and we have to unlearn a lot of lessons as an adult.
Yes,
And
sir. Yes, sir.
this is just part of it. And some lessons you don't need to unlearn until the time where they don't work anymore. So, but the guiding principle here is that, is to let go of the shame. I don't necessarily think we should be shameless about everything, but I think you have to recognize that certain things are not a reflection of you, right? And it doesn't say that you're a bad person, you're not good enough. So just go. There's nothing wrong with you. Just go be you.
Any last one liner you want to share with the audience before we close the session?
Since I've already said the core point here around nothing being wrong with you, I'll say this. If you want to discover who you really are, and most people don't really know who they are, recognizing what they're great at is a very difficult thing. Um, because many things that you're great at are things you don't realize because they come easily to you, and so you think they ought to come easily to everybody else. Here's how you can easily know where to investigate. When you do something that feels like pretty easy, you do it, you just do XYZ and it just happens. But it feels surprising why other people aren't just able to do it. And it's almost baffling. That is an area to investigate because there's something about the way you do it that makes it easy for you that's very hard for others. And that there's an area to recognize and uncover something there. So that's absolutely one way to recognize all the character traits that you have that make you great.
Yeah, I think, if you love your work, you're never going to work, you're never going to feel like you're working a single day in your life. And yeah, just enjoy what you're doing, have this natural inclination. And maybe one pointer from my end would be stay curious. There's a lot happening in the world right now and a lot of, good changes coming in. And yeah, just keep learning, guys. And hopefully, maybe we even do an episode 2 or an in-person podcast sometime with Kevin. But this was the podcast, guys. And see you guys in the next one. Until then, all the links about Kevin would be down in the description so you can connect with him and follow him and extract all the knowledge from Kevin there. Thank you guys. See you in the next one. Peace.